Hello everyone, all one of you. How goes it? We are here today to discuss MPM Ratchet. It's a pretty good MPM figure. I mean, they all do a good job of nailing the robot mode. The vehicle mode's always compromised, well, lately. I suppose it's easier with sports cars because, you know, you just have no clearance at all to toy with. Whereas these 4x4 vehicles, anyway, this just snaps in. It's got a couple of independent spinners. He also comes with a couple of missile racks that you can plug in. And of course the gun can be plugged in. Helps to kind of curl the fist out of the way when you do that. So that's why. So there he is in all his glory. He is greenish, but it's a weird kind of green, man. It's like practically yellow. I tried to adjust the saturation on the camera feed to kind of match what the eye sees, but the eye is still, it's just still too bright. Let me just turn off backlight comp entirely. It's brighter than that. I mean, I really have to kind of crank the saturation to get it to match what I see with my eye. But I don't want to do it too much because it'll blow out any whiter areas of the robot. Got a whole 2 viewers, all right. So we'll turn it into the car, which is a little trickier operation because you have to kind of pack it away properly. First thing I'm going to do is lift these up. And then we're going to rotate these. How do I do it? I'm going to start, I'm not going to rotate them yet. I'm going to flip these past them, and then I'm going to rotate them like 270 degrees so that they're facing in. And then you can fold this up, and there's like a little port you can tab it, peg it in. It's more of a peg than a tab, so I'm going to say peg. You can rotate these little emergency lights so they face inward. And that's it for that part. We're going to move on to other areas, but that just gets it out of the way. Next thing we're going to do is start breaking the backpack. This tabs in kind of at an angle. Good note here, if this pegs in, but if this is up here, then obviously the peg won't line up, and also the square port that this tab plugs into won't line up. So you can see it kind of shift there, and of course the peg actually locks, so that's how it's supposed to go. So we get that out of the way, we untab the C clamp and fold it in, and we can raise up the windshield. Interesting note, I haven't gotten to the point where I got frustrated enough to glue it. It clearly has like a little place for a screw. So it's almost like they originally were like, we're going to screw this in. I don't know if the screw was forgotten. Other people that have this can maybe mention whether or not theirs actually has a screw. But my windshield comes off really easily as a result of it just being kind of tabbed in. I can keep track of it, like I can avoid it popping off, but it's kind of interesting. It looks like it's supposed to have a screw, but I could see like in the factory them going, oh no, the screw is cracking the windshield, and then someone going, well, I'll just leave the screw off, it's fine. So who knows? Other people have to tell me whether or not they have a screw there. You turn the head, like the cowl of the head around, backwards. Someone observed that I snuck in the rotation to that by just doing this when I rotated the figure to the back for the final bit. This part, it untabs right there, and it's on a rocker, so you just kind of bring it up. But that's the idea. I kind of leave the backpack just kind of folded up in a pile, just to keep it out of the way. The instructions actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me just get some more stuff out of the way. So this actually kind of lifts up. There's like a hinge right there. It lifts up, and then you can walk this forward. And you can tab it in, but it doesn't tab all the way in until the arm is out of the way. You can move it back a little bit, but I'm not going to bother right now. But you can go ahead and tab it in if you move the arms back. So we're just going to get that lined up. And you can start to tab it in, but it won't go all the way until the arm's out of the way. So that's that. We have to basically let's see if I can rotate this out of the way. The front of the vehicle kind of tabs in here, and it also captures a tab here. So you really just have to kind of pry it off. I found that I can just kind of grab the front and pull it off, but sometimes it, runs away from you and you could damage it. So it's better just to kind of give it a little pop here. But you can see that port that plugged into that tab, and there's also like a tab in the back here that plugs into a port there. So we're just lifting this up out of the way. We can kind of arrange the arms. I'll take a moment and do that. But basically the idea is we want to fold them as far as they'll go, and we will fold this. Now for a while I was kind of folding the hand in like this, but it sticks out too far. See this plane here? This plane? You want that to actually end up flat as you can. It doesn't really go completely flat, but curling up the hand was causing it to stick out like a little bit like this. And that would cause it to not align properly later on. So note on folding the hand. We're going to fold up this arm. We're going to fold this hand over. Just kind of loosely drape the fingers back. You can do anytime you find a good opportunity, but it's just this kind of sits at an angle like this, not completely flat, not completely down or anything. And you'll find that the tabs on the tips of these fenders will tab into holes that are kind of blurred out by the lighting, but there's little sockets there. If I put some shade on it, you can see the socket there. You can see right here. So we lift up the bumper bits, and we can put them, slide the bumper up like that. These lights are actually on like a slider that you can't really access directly, so you find that you have to kind of push on one light and then push on the other light and push on one light, and it'll eventually kind of pop. I find in the down direction it doesn't pop a whole lot, but you will get kind of a pop if you raise them up for robot mode. Mine actually kind of slipped in the shoot. I noticed only at the very end of editing when I looked at the portrait that I took. I was like, oh crap, those are misaligned. Anyway, this is up out of the way. It took me a long time to figure out what you're supposed to do with these until I discovered that there's actually like there's a little socket here, like a little channel, and this is perfectly shaped to fit into that channel. It's a shame that the registration codes for their whatever manufacturing line this was on are very visible. I thought about painting them black, but I'm just going to present the figure as it is for now. If I get tired of it later, maybe I'll paint it black. But those actually kind of tab in, they rotate out, and then the final position is just basically flat. But when you go into this mode, you want to go almost, not 45 degrees, but a little past 45 degrees, and you'll find that it tabs in just fine. So we'll just get these flat. We have a good opportunity now, so we're just going to do the waist rotation. So it's just a 180 whenever everything's out of the way sufficiently. They do have you do the rotation of this bit at this point in the instructions, but I had a little fun with it and discovered that I could actually do the rotation much closer to vehicle mode. So I did. It also kept it, like, for me from having to park these parts here, because I found I would have to get rid of them to get them out of the way to do the rotation, and then I'd have to kind of bring them back and lock them in like I showed you. So it avoids some parking to just do the chest rotation at a different point. This actually kind of pops out of there. So this is robot mode, and this is vehicle mode, and ultimately vehicle mode you want to get a nice 45-degree angle there, but for now we're just kind of keeping it out of the way. We got to rotate the legs at the knee. It actually kind of brings them inward a little bit. And we straighten the feet. There's like a stop that prevents you from over straightening. And then we can fold over these, and they actually have a peg and a hole. There's a little peg and a little hole, so you can actually kind of pop them in. And then ostensibly they go like this, but trying to do them both at the same time and stay locked together with the joints popping at differing intervals causes, it's not worth the trouble. So what we want to do is we do want to we want to make sure that, like, if you've done some posing with it, you want to make sure that the hips are straight. They're so detailed, it's hard to tell they're straight, but you can kind of see like it's a straight instead of a bend. We want to pop out these panels, and I find that one way to handle it is to push on this side. So I'm just kind of anchoring the leg. I'm putting a thumb there. I'm putting a finger here, and I'm kind of popping it out. And a different sort of arrangement, you can pop out the other side. Once that's popped out, you can fold this open. I like to fold it open just a little bit here. Not 90 degrees because of the way you can't pop it in when it's 90 degrees, but you can pop it in when it's folded 45 degrees. Anyway, so you pop this up. And now we're ready to bring the legs over. So what's going to happen is we're going to bring them up one click. That click will actually give you clearance on the knee here to pop loose this joint. It really doesn't matter when you do it, but this is kind of the precise way to do it. And then we can bring it. This has a stop. It has another stop right here. So this can only fold this far. And then we start engaging the knee, the ratcheted knee joint again. And your goal is to have, you might think that this looks like it will fit nice and tidy, like if we bend the leg, it'll fit like that or something. But we want it to overshoot. We want it to be there. We're going to do the same thing on the other side real quick. And we do want to make sure we tab these together when everything's folded. You'll have a little trouble if you forget to pop these plates out, because the plates will kind of get in the way of some of the hinges. So if you're having a little trouble getting everything straight, it might be because you forgot to pop the plates out. And then this has to fit under this, which can be a little challenging. What I'm going to do is just I'm going to bring that up out of the way as much as I can. And we're just bringing these out of the way. So we're just going to fit the feet under here. And it just helps to have it kind of bent like that. Or otherwise you'll scrape the feet. I don't know if I scraped the foot, but there is like a paint application, like a spot missing there. The other foot's fine. I don't know if I scraped it off when I was first transforming it, but there is a pretty tight clearance there. You might have to get yourself a yellow paint pen, I'm just saying. And then so we're just about ready to do our big turn. I like to make sure that these are as out of the way as they can be. Make sure the roof rack is out of the way. You want to make sure these things, you see these gray bits here, they can actually go pretty far forward. You see it going past the front edge. You want to make sure you back that off just a tad. In the video, I kind of forgot to turn the shoulder joints at the time that I would normally. So in this case, going backwards, I haven't turned them yet. Because what I want to do is, you want the elbows down. It's a little easier. But as you saw in the video, even if these are rotated 180 degrees around, you can still have the clearance you need to do the rotation. So you just want to make sure these aren't advanced past the front edge. You want to make sure the arms are kind of snugged up to these and that these are folded out so that they're clearing the front of the vehicle. And then with that, we haven't really tabbed the roof together yet, which is why we can get away with this. But I'm trying to remember I think I can go ahead and do this. So I'm going to go ahead and do it real quick. Just do the big dramatic turn here in a minute. But you have to kind of move multiple things at once because they get in each other's way. But your goal is to get this flat. You want to make sure that this joint here. You don't want it down. You want to make sure that it's raised all the way up. So not like this, like this. And then with all this flat, you can tab this in. It tabs there pretty easily. And over here. This is another place where if you hadn't pulled those panels out, you would find that it doesn't tab for shit because they're too close together. So we're going to just make sure that these are tabbed in like that. And then we can bring down this back piece and lock it in. And it kind of holds it together, so it's useful there. There, this is how the video went. Yeah, so now we're like at mostly truck. And you might be surprised to learn that you can still rotate at this point and still have everything together. The key is to have this bent instead of straight. Because if it's straight, it manipulates where the windshield is and stuff. You want the windshield to be able to slip under here. We'll kind of touch on that going in the other direction. But, so we got everything out of the way. Everything's square. This is at a slight angle. And then we can just rotate this. Oh, the doors have to be out of the way. Of course, if the arms rotate around the other way like it was in the video, then the doors don't have to be as much out of the way, but this is the easier way to rotate it. So this just rotates around. And you saw a little rubbing there, but you can find just the right angle to avoid any rubbing at all. And I'm just kind of straightening these back out. I like these to kind of grab the grill because it gets them further out of the way. You can actually move these up a little bit now that they're not going to get in the way of the rotation anymore. Move the arms up. So the deal is we bring the windshield down and then we grab it with the hood. And this all, remember this sort of double joint. You just want to make sure it's this way. When you're manipulating, if you want to do the hood rotation like I did it, you want to bring it up a little bit. That's shown in the video. But when we're going back, we want to bring it back so the windshield lines up with the front of the roof line there. And then we're just straightening this out. So that's completely straight now. And you'd never be able to rotate this at that point. Everything's in the way. So we're going to rotate the arms and bring them in. The trick here is you want to bring the arms in part way. Fold the door out of the way here. But once this is cleared, you see this big pointy bit right there. Once that clears the windshield, then you want to rotate this so that it actually mates up with the foot. There's kind of a gap in the foot. You see it there. So you want to rotate that up so that it's going to line up with the foot. And that brings that clip. This will actually hit the windshield now, which is why I do like a little bit of a tweak, which is a parking, to get that out. But we're bringing that back up. And at that point, everything is lined up the way it should be. You just have to make sure that you manipulate the arm joint so that it's all the way. And we're looking to, there's a tab there on the bar. And there's a socket here. On the instructions, they have you plugging this into the socket, and you certainly can, but then the arm doesn't have any mobility, so I don't. But we're just going to bring that in to make sure it tabs the way it should. And the hand, if it's folded enough out of the way, there's a socket here in the forearm. You can see it kind of silver and yellow. And there's a tab. And this is just going to tab in to the forearm. And you can see the hand is just flat enough in this position to not bump into, because if the hand is sticking out, then it'll bump into that area there, and the arm can't actually tab, and then everything else can't tab. So you want to make sure the hand is folded down as far as it'll go there, and you'll find that it tabs easily and completely when it's lined up. So it's like vertical there, you know. As you can see, it's like a ridge. So we're going to do the same thing with the other arm. We're going to get the door out of the way a little bit, rotate it around, put it in, rotate this part up a little bit so that it mates with the foot, so it lines up with the foot groove. And at that point, the tab will line up, and then this tab lines up. And now the arms are put away. We're going to close this. We're going to make sure that this roof bar, which I didn't show as a separate step in the video, but make sure it's forward, because there's a couple of tabs here that go on either side of it. Unfortunately, the door, there is a gap, and maybe someone smarter than me found a way to get rid of it, but I mean, I have this thing stitched together as tight as it can, and there's still a gap. So there's a gap. Live with it. So this whole thing shifts back. You have to kind of wiggle the grill out of the way to tuck it in, much like any other ratchet that's ever been released. And then this locks in the door as much as it can. But there's like a tab on the front of the door, and it locks in. So we're going to bring this in and lock it down. Make sure it tabs. And then we can bring this bit in, now that the arms are in. And there's a little bit of a tab built into the plastic here, and there's a little bit of a groove right there. Those actually line up. So contra the directions, I like to get this lined up at this point. They have you kind of unjam, like pull this thing out, but it would be hard to get that lined up properly in the other direction. So I just like to make sure it is going to line up. It also kind of helps keep the heels of this foot from interfering with the wheel later, to have it kind of forced out of the way like that. And then we can get rid of these things, which they do a very poor job of getting rid of, because it's just kind of hanging out the back of the car. This car has no clearance. It is not a 4x4 vehicle. Well, I mean, it might have four-wheel drive, right? But it's not going off-road. So we bring this up, and it's going to capture the door. There's a tab here that's going to tab into the to a socket on the arm, and it's at a slight angle, and this socket's at a slight angle. And then we just want to make sure that as we do it, we clear this part. So there's like a little bit of a tab here that engages. In the instructions, they're like, yeah, just jam this thing out. That's the next step. But I don't agree with that. I mean, you can get away with it, but... So we just make sure all that's tight. And then we can do the same thing on this side. We're just going to pull this out, unfold it, bring it up, make sure it's capturing the door, make sure that tab goes, make sure this little bit here catches there, and make sure that the roof rack is tabbed together, and this is down there, and that's it. There he is. That's how to stitch them together properly, with a little more explanation and show where your hands go. Let's see. JFigs94 says, I really hope they make a KO, man. We need not only the color to be correct, but his legs especially need more paint. Yeah, it's true. That's fair. I mean, I'm not in favor of KOs generally, but a lot of those KO companies were doing a good job of improving figures. Mine does not have a screw, so good to know. Honestly prefer it. As you said, it would fear the screw would crack the windshield. Too true. I've thought about gluing it, and I haven't decided whether it's worth it. It does... All the tabs involved when you put that windshield on, that hinge, there's enough friction there that it stays on as long as you're aware that it could fall off. So, similar thing happened to my first edition re-release Viacon. Back windshield was cracked. That's a shame. Huge lack of silver paint. Yeah, I mean, there could be a lot more silver paint. I have a silver paint pen, and you could get it's called the what is the name? I used to have it memorized because it was so. But it's a silver paint pen. You can get it at like Hobby Lobby, and it Gosh, I wish I could remember the name. Let's see if I can find it. Because I highly recommend it. It's liquid chrome. What's it? Molotow. Molotow. Molotow liquid chrome. It's really cool. I had like the chrome was coming off my MP what's it called? Hot rods smokestacks. The more recent one, in fact, the MP-28 hot rod, and I was kind of bummed because you could kind of see the underlying clear plastic or smoky plastic under the silver. And I got a Molotow paint pen and chromed it up. I chromed up one of my Optimus Prime mainline toys just for fun, and it really popped. It looked really cool. It may not be as well, I don't know. Even factory chrome doesn't last forever, obviously. So it has the same problem that chrome has, where it'll rub off potentially. Yeah, I mean they'll do like an accurate fall. I didn't buy the Megatron, the first movie Megatron, because in my mind that's like some crazy like, you know, crumpled aluminum foil robot that turns into some crazy crumpled aluminum foil jet, and I didn't think, frankly, that they even did a very good job of folding up his legs, like at least to make it look like the movie. But I just, you know, it's enough for me that the robot doesn't look like a normal human being. Even in G1, I mean, it didn't look like a normal human being. It was obviously a robot. But to have the alt mode be like something completely made up. I mean, I understand. I guess maybe the explanation could be that Megatron's arrogant and he's just not going to have an Earth mode. Screw you. Or he just escaped from prison, so he didn't have time. But you know, Transformers, the alt mode should be like a thing, not just some pile of polygons. I had the same problem with the Fallen. I mean, the Fallen didn't even transform into anything in the movie, and yet the Fallen toy that came out, it transformed, it folded in half into kind of a jet, and it's like, okay, it transformed. But, I mean, what's the Fallen other than just an action figure? It doesn't really transform into anything. And like I said, Megatron to me doesn't really transform into anything. I mean, at least the tank mode looked a little more like a tank. I'd probably get I'd like to see an MPM Megatron tank, just because that tank was pretty bitchin'. Who else would I want to see them do? I mean, can you imagine if they plan far enough ahead that MPM-4 Optimus Prime can actually combine with a future MPM Jetfire? I mean, it's basically parts forming, because that's what they did in the movie. They parts formed. But imagine like a full-scale like MPM Jetfire. That would be ridiculous. They'd have to scale it so it would fit the Prime. Otherwise, there'd be no point. Let's see. I'm really excited to see what MPM line. I read that one. Such a mediocre figure and another wasted opportunity to give Ratchet the best figure possible. Masterpiece in name only. That's a fair assessment. I mean, I hate how they think that the undercarriage of the vehicle is like free game for hiding robot parts. But I mean, this doesn't look like a 4x4 vehicle. It looks like it has a bunch of. It looks like it, you know, got stuck on top of some shit. So it's kind of low effort to hide stuff under it. Like, you know, Starscream was especially bad. MPM Starscream, they were, I mean, jet mode, it's hard to make it sleek, some people pointed out, but that was a particularly poor effort. I mean, it's just a robot with a plane on top. And even from above, you could see robot parts sticking out. So that was poor. But this is not so great either, because, I mean, this is not a off-road vehicle. It's like, it wouldn't be able to go over a speed bump without getting stuck. So that is what it is. Yeah, see, that's a good explanation for Megatron not having an Earth mode, is to be like, well, he doesn't respect humans, so he doesn't even try to look like an Earth mode. That's cool. That makes a certain amount of character sense. Where he's too proud of his, you know, because he came up in the slave pits or something. We'll keep an eye out for other comments while I transform back into robot mode, because that's how I'm going to have them on the shelf. So I'm just going to pop this loose, make sure this comes loose, and then fold this down. I only folded this far and then did the thing and then folded a little further because it was going to be out of camera, so I didn't want to move the camera. It was too late. Fold this up, tabs. Same thing over here. And then I can move these out of the way. I can just go ahead and move them all the way down there for now. And then we pop these loose. Don't want to bring it too far. And we can pop this out. This goes here. See, it catches right there, so you do have to kind of rotate this down a little bit. Just like to get that up like that. And then you can just go ahead and rotate the arms around just so you don't have to do it again later. I should have done it that way in the video and I kind of forgot. And then I was like, oh shit, I forgot to do the arms. Too late. We're just bringing that around like that. And then this easily comes down there. No problem. We just want to, the reason we want to bend that armature, here's the windshield coming off. But we bend this armature because it affects how the windshield, everything lines up here. So you can actually get enough clearance that the windshield can sneak up. Because you got to get the windshield out of the way to do the rotation. But now that everything's out of the way like that, the rotation is fairly straightforward. So you see there's not any, other than these flaps will get caught easily. But and now that part's done. I think in the video I just went ahead and did the bumper, but it just tabs in on either side. And then we flop it on the ground and we flail at the legs a little bit. But this lifts up, kind of goes on top of the tire. It can get caught. The tire will get out of the way. We want to start lifting these up, and then all this. And I just like these to be all the way up so they're out of the way. And we can just, remember this rack folds back for vehicle mode. And go ahead and shove it so it's like that. And then we can sneak the feet out just by bending this joint right here. So we unfold the feet, lock in those parts that aren't part of the knee joint, transformation joints. And then we're going to fold this down. It's a bit of a snap, but don't be too scared of it. This actually gets caught under that, and then we can compress those panels. Fold the feet. Don't forget the heel spurs. And we're standing. Oh, we have to turn these around. If you turn them around the other way, they'll collide with the shit on the back of his leg, potentially. So it's easier to turn them towards the middle. And I forgot to put these in place, but they're just ornaments for the... Ooh, now they're not just car wheels. They've been decorated. We can go ahead and rotate the hips since we got everything discombobulated and lock this down. So now we're here. Remember these, we're going to rotate them a little past 45 degrees, fold them back, and they fit right into that socket. A little bit like that. And then this can come down and capture both tabs at the same time, the one in the back and the one in the front. We can fold the arms down, fold the hands out, arrange things a little bit. We'll go over what the instructions say to do with the shoulders. It's weird, but we'll get everything else transformed first before we discuss that. So this is out of the way. You can just go ahead and move this down. The wheels pop loose and kind of rotate back and fold. They're out like this, and then they kind of fold down. There's like one final hinge there, like a partial hinge, like a quarter of a hinge. We're going to do these. Turn the head around while we're here. Go ahead and secure the backpack while we're here. Just going to pop out this C-clamp, and it just pops on like that. This tucks underneath. We pop this loose and fold it and flip around the rear lights for no particular reason. for the top lights, just so they're backwards, just so something happened, I guess. We're going to do the 270-degree turn with these lamps. That is not lit at all, sorry. So it's, you know, this is truck mode and this is robot mode, but it keeps you out of the way of these things so they can flip back, and then this flips down. And then I like, there's a certain position this thing has where, like, if you bring it all the way down, you can't really close the door at all. You can't get the door behind. But if you bring it up just the right spot, the door will kind of fold neatly behind the arm, and that's I think that looks better. But there is a hinge here, so you can expand this out, at which point you can't really fold this behind. It's less tight. And this absurdity, there's a tab here. This was actually part of the it's not actually used for anything, but this was used for the securing the arm, this hole. But you can plug this tab into the hole like the instructions say, and it's kind of crazy to do it because then the shoulder joint can't move. But you can bring this out far enough, and you can angle this right. Angles like that. And you can tab it in when it's like that. But like I said, you know, this doesn't fold as well, so you have to find something else to do with it. And you can't actually operate the shoulder joint anymore because, you know, this doesn't work. So I like to have these things free floating. I like to have the shoulder joint just not expanded, not fluffed out, and tilted up a little bit so the door will hide behind the shoulder properly. Little dude does actually have a mouth. You can open his mouth, and you know, you can put him in a dynamic, you know, where he's like, "Ah, I'm a warrior." Ah. Anyway, but I don't see Ratchet being that kind of guy, so I like to have his mouth closed, where he's being stoic, not causing a lot of trouble, and where he's just kind of standing in a neutral stance because, you know, he's dignified. He's a doctor, for God's sakes. Theoretically. So, pretty good Ratchet. The robot mode kicks. I mean, even Ironhide, the robot mode, looked good. Even Starscream, the robot mode, looks good. So they nail the robot mode. Although, as some of you point out, he's missing a lot of paint apps that would probably make him pop a little better. That's actually die cast in his thighs. This is die cast here. Hold on. Nope, it's plastic. And, oh, the feet are die cast. This is painted die cast. That's why it chipped right there. So there's the bottom of the foot here, you can see it's plastic, but this is die cast, like the shell of the toe. So he's got a fair amount of die cast. He has some heft to him, so he doesn't feel cheap. But maybe you have to do a little of your own painting after you get him. As much as I'm not a huge fan of Fans Toy Silverbolt, you got to give credit to them. It has the slimmest profile practically every jet bot made. Really? 'Cause, all right. You know what? I have a whole collection of Yamato Macross jets, and those look like jets from the bottom. But they're also kind of really intended to. The show designer, they're mechs instead of being insentient robots. They're mechs that people fly around. But I have quite a few of these. See if I can do see if I got my display capture. Hey, it worked. So Yamato made a whole series of jets. They were my favorite company for the Macross jets. Bandai makes some decent Macross jets, but it's hard to get many pictures where they're being shown from the bottom, but trust me, they are very clean from the bottom. Like I have this guy, and it's a gorgeous jet, and the YF-22, like, oh, this one's cool. I have this one, and that's super clean on the bottom. It is possible to make a jet that turns into a robot, but when you're trying to turn a jet into like a Michael Bay robot, I can understand you have some constraints that you're dealing with there. There's a bit of a nightmare going on for you. But still, I think Unique Toys could probably do a really good Starscream. Maybe they will when... I feel like Unique Toys is kind of avoided overlapping with what Hasbro is currently doing. So they kind of... Like, Unique Toys skipped ahead and did, like, Last Night figures. And they did Lahir... Or, no, Peruk Hill. In conjunction, I think, with DX9, they did Lahir. And those are all figures that, or characters that were from like the later movies. So they really went out of their way not to step on Hasbro's toes and like do like a first movie figure. Like they didn't whip out their own Ratchet. They're doing like the later movies. And probably like clockwork, about the time Hasbro's doing the later movies, if they're not just too ashamed to even try to beat Unique Toys at what they've already done. Probably Unique Toys would go back in time and do the first movie, do their own takes on the first movie figures. So maybe at that point we'll finally get an MPM masterpiece Starscream that is clever. Yeah, well, the Bumblebee movie did really well. They kept some threads tying the Bumblebee movie to the Michael Bay universe. Some of the design was kind of the Bayformers design. But they had an eye towards, like, maybe Bumblebee would be a reboot of the franchise. I don't know if you're referring to... I feel like the Bumblebee movie was so successful that they're not going to abandon it, but they might unlink it from the events of the Bay films and just have like a late 80s, early 90s based story about Autobots and Decepticons fighting. Like the classic story. I think they did a really good job of making Bumblebee, or even the villains, the two villains, especially the red one, the female. The villains from the Bumblebee movie had like personality. I think better than the Michael Bay movies. Michael Bay just kind of wastes the characters. He wants the human characters to be out front because I guess in his mind the robots aren't cool. So he doesn't want the robots to be like the characters. He wants humans to be the characters. So hopefully we'll get... I'd like to see a CGI movie entirely just Cybertron, like the scenes that they had in the Bumblebee movie. It would be so cool. Just Transformers. I don't need any humans. I don't need whatever supermodel Michael Bay is currently dating or, throwing on the casting couch. I just want robots as characters on Cybertron, so we just avoid even having humans. That'd be pretty sweet. Hello, Commander Fox Productions. Spooky Stone, did you hear about how... Okay, well, we're caught up. I transformed it both directions. We had a little conversation about some things. And I'm not going to belabor the point. I appreciate everyone dropping by. This weekend, I did receive... I took receipt of Devil Savior Smash, which is their version of Long Haul. He's definitely not as bad as Split was, their version of Mixmaster. But I'm not going to rush into producing him, especially since I've thoroughly worked out how to do Big Firebird Toys Nice Super Sexy RC that they came out with. We had a vote last week if you wanted to see this or that, and you voted for this. But I'm not going to let you vote every time. I got to move the production along. So this week is going to be Nice, and presumably next week would be Smash or Long Haul. And then who knows? I don't have anything. Nothing shipped currently, so I might be not doing anything. Other than looking in my back I've got everything from 2001 till fairly recently when I stopped doing everything. So I've got a lot of figures. I could dip back into some Transformers Prime figures. Some of those first edition figures are fantastic. I'd love to reshoot Prime first edition Bulkhead. Just an amazing, clever, elegant design. I'm really talking myself into it now. Maybe I will reshoot Bulkhead if I run out of stuff to do. But for now, we got Nicey and we got Smash, and that's 2 weeks, so maybe sometime in the meantime, something else will ship. And that's what's on the horizon, kids. Have a nice day, and I will talk to you next Wednesday. Look for the Nicey video this Sunday. Ta-ta.